Good evening, everybody. It may be time to declare war outright against the deep state and clear out the rot in the upper levels of the FBI and the Justice Department. Yes, I said the rot. The FBI and the DOJ have broken the public trust by destroying evidence, defying oversight, and actively trying to bring down the Trump presidency. Tonight, there are new concerns that anti-Trump FBI officials formed even a secret society at the FBI to subvert the president after his election. That's according to two Republican lawmakers who've seen some of the thousands of texts between the FBI's Peter Strzok and Lisa Page.
The day after the election, the day after what they really didn't want to have happen, there's a text exchange between these two FBI agents, these two supposed to be objective, fact-centric FBI agents saying perhaps this is the first meeting of the secret society. So, of course, I'm going to want to know what secret society are you talking about, because you're supposed to be investigating objectively the person who just won the Electoral College. So, yeah, I'm going to want to know.
Our first guest tonight is Congressman Francis Rooney. He's called for a purge of the bad actors at the FBI and the Department of Justice. Also tonight, major developments in the special counsel witch hunt. Mueller has now interviewed both Attorney General Jeff Sessions and former FBI Director James Comey. President Trump, however, says he's not concerned about the investigation of the special counsel, which has yet to yield a shred of evidence of collusion.
No, I'm not at all concerned.
Did you talk to him about it?
No, I didn't, but I'm not at all concerned.
President Trump also denied any reports that FBI Director Christopher Wray threatened to resign amid growing pressure from the White House and Attorney General Sessions. Those reports, fake news. At this hour, Wray remains as the head of the FBI, but as chief of staff, James Rybecki is leaving the Bureau. Charlie Hurt and Ed Rollins will be among those joining me to discuss the growing calls to end the Mueller witch hunt altogether and to appoint a second special counsel to investigate corruption at the Department of Justice and the FBI, and potentially the Mueller special counsel. Our top story tonight, evidence of ever greater corruption in the FBI and DOJ. The FBI claims they lost text messages between agents accused of anti-Trump bias. But among the texts that we do have, there is disturbing discussion of a secret society working against President Trump and his administration. Fox News Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge with our report.
2 days after special counsel Robert Mueller took over the Russia probe in May, newly released text messages between demoted FBI agent Peter Strzok and reassigned lawyer Lisa Page suggest they discussed the merits of joining Mueller's team. Strzok writes, "You and I both know the odds are nothing. If I thought it was likely, I'd be there, no question. I hesitate in part because of my gut sense and concern there's no big there. On Fox, Republican lawmakers said the texts are more evidence of political bias.
I care a lot about the Department of Justice and the FBI, and it breaks my heart that we are having to have this conversation about two agents that only wanted to get the president. They didn't have any interest in clearing him.
Another Republican who read the text said the FBI officials talk about a, quote, secret society within days of President Trump's victory.
There was a society of at least two people, to include Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, that had a desire to keep Donald Trump from becoming president, and then an expressed intent to work against him after he was elected president.
In a cryptic text, Strzok writes, "I personally have a sense of unfinished business. Unleashed it with MYE, or mid-year exam, the FBI's code name for the Clinton email case. Now I need to fix it and finish it." The FBI blames a technical problem for a 5-month gap in the Strzok Page texts and would not comment on whether the Bureau has taken physical custody of their phones to recover the messages.
It is no coincidence, in my opinion, that we're missing texts that run from when the Russia investigation was launched right up to the point where you have the Mueller investigation being launched.
Writing in a tweet, President Trump called the missing text one of the biggest stories in a long time. The Senate senior Democrat called out Republicans for undermining Mueller.
But he shouldn't be thwarted in any way, and the diversion that they're trying to do, both with Mueller and with others, is not good for the country.
In a separate development, President Trump said the White House had no advance notice of Attorney General Jeff Sessions' special counsel interview last week.
No, I didn't, but I'm not at all concerned.
The president also denied media reports that FBI Director Christopher Wray threatened to quit after pressure to remove his deputy Andrew McCabe, a longtime lieutenant of fired FBI Director James Comey.
He did not even a little bit. Nope. And he's going to do a good job.
Those close to the president tell Fox News they always expected Attorney General Sessions would be interviewed by the special counsel, but they didn't know the timing. Today, a White House spokesman emphasized transparency and their cooperation with the special counsel. Lou?
Catherine, thank you very much. Catherine Herridge
You're
reporting. Well, in the last 48 hours, we've learned more about the deep state and public corruption involving two of the most important law enforcement and national security institutions, the FBI and the Department of Justice. Every member of Congress now who has read the classified intelligence memorandum detailing FISA surveillance abuse seem deeply disturbed, to say the least. Our next guest is calling for the release of the classified documents and demanding a purge of officials at the politically corrupt FBI and DOJ. Joining us tonight is Republican Florida Congressman Francis Rooney. He's vice chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, good to have you with us, first of all. This is now reaching a level that I don't think many anticipated, and that is two institutions that are at the foundation of the special counsel are obviously corrupt and working against the public interest.
Well, first, Lou, thank you for having me on again. I really appreciate it. No one would have assumed or foreseen the depth of the rot that you're talking about. Who could have thought such unconscionable and outrageous behavior would be conducted right inside the DOJ and the FBI? That's why those memos need to be released. Let the American people see what's happened here.
And your reaction to the four-page memorandum, and all that we are learning, missing texts between Page and Strzok, as if it was just a sort of an offhand, one-time affair, not a continued series of glitches that seem to keep evidence away from investigators.
No, I think the two words pervasive rot are what come to my mind, and I think a lot of Americans are going to feel the same way.
And where do we go here? I mean, we have some of the most respected congressmen who served with you, yourself, everyone talking about this, yet the American public still has a wall between us and the truth. And how soon can we expect to see those documents to make a determination? Not as Adam Schiff, the radical left Congress from California, put it. He said, we are too stupid to understand that, we, the American public. I've never heard such an excuse, such silliness or such insult from a sitting congressman.
I felt the same way when I read that this morning. It's one more example of this intellectual elitism of the progressive group that has nothing to do with what built this country and what's going to continue to make this country great again.
And how soon do you think we will see the memoranda, see the evidence? And then I wanted to conclude with one other question, but I'll hold it till you answer that.
Well, I hope soon. Time's of the essence. I mean, I have joined in the letter to the Speaker urging that he release that material as soon as possible. I think he wanted to let the dust settle on the government shutdown problem that we solved, and now I hope he'll do it quite soon. I think you're going to be shocked.
Well, to tell you the truth, I am not... I don't think I've failed to be shocked even to this point. I knew that there was corruption. I knew that there was an effort to subvert this president, but the degrees, the dimension to which it's risen are extraordinary. Do you believe that the president should hold off? And I'm asking for your counsel on this, just in your theory and your view. Do you believe the president should permit Robert Mueller to talk with him, so long as there is so much question about the two foundation institutions for the special counsel, that is DOJ and the FBI?
You know, you tend to say, why not talk to him? because you got nothing to hide. And obviously, after all this page turning and tree killing, they haven't found anything at all. But on the other hand, you're right. The rot in this investigation is so deep that connecting all the dots of all these different people, they all keep going around in the same circle. And now this revelation today that they were talking about confirming what we've been saying about a deep state. I just don't know.
Congressman, it's always good to talk with you. Thanks for being with us. Congressman Francis.
Thanks for having me on.
You bet. We're coming right back. There is a lot more. Stay with us. Growing calls to make public a shocking memo. A memo that details the Obama administration's abuse of power and surveillance of citizens.
I read it twice just to make sure I read it properly, and it was deeply disturbing.
We take up the deep state corruption at the Department of Justice and the FBI. Joining us tonight, constitutional scholar and attorney Josh Blackman. And more House Republicans now demanding a second special counsel after revelations someone in the agency likely destroyed 5 months of text messages between anti-Trump officials. What happened to those messages, and what does it mean to the ongoing investigation of the special counsel? We'll be back with those answers and much more. Stay with us. Page memo said to detail FBI and Justice Department abuse of FISA surveillance. Fox News reporting the release could occur as early as next week. The stunning level of anti-Trump vitriol within it has led Republicans to stop sharing information with the FBI and the Department of Justice related to that memo. Joining us tonight is Josh Blackman, associate professor at South Texas College of Law, legal columnist for the National Review. And Josh, it's good to see you. And I have to believe that you, like nearly all of us, are fairly stunned at what we're seeing coming out of the Justice Department and the FBI.
Well, Lou, thanks for having me back. These reports are actually quite troubling. There's been an unfortunate trend where many people inside the executive branch have taken up to openly resisting President Trump. A few months ago, there were reports that a group within the Consumer Protection Agency called themselves Dumbledore's Army. This is a takeoff of a group within Harry Potter books of people trying to resist the evil wizards. And they called
sound
themselves
like
this
very
as a way
mature
to...
individuals, very responsible individuals. I'm glad they could be of service.
Well, these are our civil servants who are openly using private channels to communicate, encrypted chats and the like. And I listened to your report at the top of the hour, and people are meeting off-site and using other forms of communication, text messages and otherwise. We should not forget, these are civil servants. They're on the taxpayer dollar. And these ulterior motives, these ulterior agendas really shouldn't be present in these agencies.
Well, even if present, we should be able to fire them. They should be removed from public employment, whether the federal government, state, local, county, whatever it might be. But what we have not paid attention to is the growth, both in number and strength, of public employee unions, and particularly in the federal government. They are all but immune from accountability, or certainly removal from their jobs.
You're right, Lou. Civil service laws make it very difficult, if not impossible, to fire rank and file employees. And what we find that often happens is people who have been at agencies for many years become invested in the cause of their agency, even if it's not consistent with that of the incumbent administration. So perhaps employees now who are committed to the environmental policy of the Obama agenda or the civil rights policy of the Obama agenda haven't quite gotten the memo that there's a new sheriff in town, a new chief executive, and they're still trying to push their old policies through.
Back to the story of the day, and that is the level of corruption at the FBI and the DOJ. What are we to do? What is President Trump to do? And how can the evidence be preserved at the top of the DOJ and the FBI, who have been actively breaking the law, destroying evidence, and working, subverting this administration, this president?
I think the president's in a tough spot. Last year, I think I was on your program when he fired Mueller,
right,
and that spawned this entire investigation. So I think at this point, the firing has to be put on hold for political reasons. I think the best bet is what Trump's lawyers have recommended. Let the investigation play out, let it wind to a close, and if nothing comes of it, then this will all be for naught. But this has been a really long process, which was triggered again by President firing Mueller last year, which was an exercise of his own constitutional authority.
We cannot give up a presidency so important, so absolutely critical. And just look at the accomplishments of this administration over the course of a past year against all that is arrayed against him. These are forces of evil now. They were initially, I thought, simply forces of negativity and opposition. But they mean to bring hell and brimfire to this administration in this country, irrespective of the damage. We don't have that luxury of waiting. Why cannot the heads of the Congress, the Senate, come together and say, let's end it now? And with this level of collusion and corruption at the Department of Justice and the FBI, why can't these people be ripped out of their seats, their offices sequestered, all of their communication devices from PCs to smartphones collected, sequestered, and secured?
Well, Lou, what would have to happen is first Attorney General Sessions would either have to unrecuse or his deputy Rosenstein would have to go ahead and fire the FBI director.
Rosenstein is one of the problems.
Right, and so the second problem
and Sessions has become a problem.
So even if heads start rolling and the investigation comes to a close, there'll still be congressional subpoenas and other matters. So I think the long and short of it is this is going to wind to its terminus, wind to its logical conclusion. I think at the end of the day,
you're telling me that we are captive to a corrupt Department of Justice and FBI, and there's not a damn thing an American citizen, or maybe 300 million American citizens, can't do but sit here and take it and say thank you? You got to be kidding.
You know what? Trump has the power. If he wants, we can fire a couple different people and end this tomorrow. But I think his lawyers have advised him that would be political suicide to do so. But he absolutely has that constitutional authority without any doubt. Lou.
Well, Josh, we're now in a religious search for alternatives. Thanks so much. We appreciate it. Good to see you, Josh.
Thank you, Lou.
Be sure to vote on our poll tonight. Do you believe it's time to clear out the corrupt FBI and Department of Justice leadership? How high up does it go? How high up in the Obama administration did it go? And where did these people come from and how did they get there? Can we seize all the evidence of the Dems and deep state subversion of this president before it will be lost, in quotes, or destroyed? Cast your vote on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Follow me on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram at Lou Dobbs Tonight. On Wall Street, stocks closed mixed. The Dow off 4 points. The S&P up 6. The Nasdaq up 52 points. Both closing at record highs. Volume on the big board. 3.5 billion shares. 3 more companies rewarding their employees because of the president's tax reform and tax cuts. Disney giving its employees, 125,000 of them, $1,000 bonuses. JP Morgan Chase raising wages for 22,000 of its workers in addition to giving bonuses. And Verizon awarding stock. Pretty good stuff. And a reminder to listen to my reports 3 times a day, coast to coast on the Salem Radio Network. Up next, hear more evidence of the deep state plot to subvert the Trump presidency. We take up the secret society mentioned in text between these two. They're getting to be awfully familiar, aren't they? Their faces sort of, well, too much fixed in our minds, perhaps. And later, the U.S. relationship with Russia, tense and getting tenser. We take it up with General Jack Keane here next. Stay with us. Senator Chuck Schumer now facing a backlash from Dems extremely unhappy with him, I guess, because he caved on DACA. And today the minority leader says he's yanked the offer he made to President Trump to fund the border wall.
President Trump's inability to negotiate with Congress is what caused the 3-day government shutdown from which we've just emerged. It's causing the fact that we're not making more progress on these issues. We're going to have to start on a new basis, and the wall offer is off the table.
Well, I guess what you're looking at is not only a guy who folded when Trump put on the pressure, but now he's crying and taking away his football. Amazing. Amazing. This is the leader of the Dems. No wonder they screw everything they touch up. President Trump today dismissed the fake reports, by the way, about tensions with his chief of staff, John Kelly. The president tweeted this: "Thank you to General John Kelly, who's doing a fantastic job, and all of the staff and others in the White House for a job well done. Long hours and fake reporting makes your job more difficult, but it's always great to win, and few have won more than us." I can't think of anybody who's won as much of them, and I'm talking to a man who's a winner himself. Joining us is Ed Rollins, Senior Presidential Fellow at Hofstra University, Chairman of the Great America PAC Box Business Contributor, and he does a few other things in between. Great to have you here.
Thank you, sir.
Well, let's start with talking with Josh Blackman, one of the country's leading constitutional scholars. Why does the president have to put up with a naked aggression, the subversion of these ignorant, treasonous, fill in the noun you want?
He doesn't. And basically everybody at the hierarchy of the Justice Department and the FBI work for him. He can fire any one of them. He fired Comey. Whether it was the right decision or not is irrelevant. He made the decision and he did it. At the end of the day here, if he thinks that they basically aren't serving the American public, and I don't think they are, then he needs to clean it out. He needs to He needs to order Sessions to clean it out.
Sessions, he withdraws like a mole in the,
Maybe he needs
at dawn.
Maybe he needs to go back to Alabama. I mean, I like Jeff Sessions when he was senator. I've said that many times, but he's not functioning.
Okay, so we got a great relationship, you and I, with Jeff Sessions. The truth is he isn't doing a.
No, he's not.
He's doing almost nothing.
No, he's not. And Mueller is operating in what most people don't understand is Mueller is functioning with the authority of the Attorney General and the Justice Department because Sessions didn't do that. And so the whole premise of bringing the president.
So you're the constitutional scholar. Let's get to it. The president needs some counsel here. I know he's got tons of it. You've gone through so much over the course of 40 years.
The counsel is there's no charge for him to testify before Mueller. It's all rumors. It's all innuendos. But no one has made a charge. And there's not a single thing that he has done in office that basically deserves him to go up. There's a separation of powers. There's an executive branch, there's a judicial branch, and this isn't even the judicial branch. This is the Justice Department. That's his branch. That's the executive branch.
It's a corrupt Justice Department.
Well, it certainly looks that way.
I'm going to say it's point blank.
No, it certainly looks that way every single day.
When you look at Christopher Wray, not even so much as say, "Excuse me, we failed in our basic job of the public trust, which is to preserve evidence." They couldn't even do that, but the fact that they were going to be the target raises some questions, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly does.
If this isn't corruption, what in the hell would it look like?
Well, the idea that 5 months of emails are missing is absurd, and I hope that they're going to go pursue that and find them because obviously there was a pattern.
I hope somebody, you said pursue it. I hope they'll catch it. I'm so sick of hearing about a Justice Department investigation or an FBI investigation. They don't go anywhere. I don't know what the FBI does any longer. They file reports that nobody hears about. They're not working in law enforcement because they're working on the war on terror. Who are they and what are they doing and why hasn't one single special agent, one attorney from the FBI had the guts, as far as I know, publicly, not a single person has stepped forward to say, look at what is happening at the top of our storied institution. Not one.
Well, I agree with that, and I'm sure there's a lot of them hanging their heads and very ashamed of the leadership of their organization.
Well, they ought to be ashamed of themselves now. This has reached a point of critical national importance. Don't you agree?
Totally, and I think the reality here is we're going to find what's going on real quick here, and I think when it does, you need to clean house. You need to put new people in there. There's nobody that has a job in the executive branch except the president. He's the only one who got votes. He can pick any team he wants, and he needs to do that.
And he needs some help.
He needs and he needs to make sure the people that are there, that are his appointees, are serving his agenda, which is the country's agenda.
Well, I want to see General John Kelly stand up like the four-star general he is. I don't want him pandering to a Hispanic caucus or any other group or individual. I want him to defend this president and assert the interest of this president and the White House, period.
Well,
he should be the strongest and most successful ally within that White House.
I think he will be. I hope he will be.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.
It's kind of nice that
Yes,
the
absolutely.
president and his chief of staff are getting along.
President can do, if he did, go through chiefs of staff too. And I worked for Ronald Reagan. We went through 6 of them.
I think he's got a good one.
I think he has a good one too. And I think the bottom line.
If the guy will just learn how to refer to the president and not insult him behind his back, or I would prefer, General, that you not do it in front of him either. Anyway, my entreaty. Ed Rollins, thanks for being with us.
And just as he should do,
scholar.
yes, sir. That's what it is.
It's yes, sir?
Yes, sir.
Well,
That's
you
what I
would
say to
think
you.
that a 4-star, as
That's
many
what I say to
salutes
you.
as he's
Yes,
taken.
sir. Yes, sir. Your
In
show.
return.
Thank you.
We're coming right back. Now I'm starting to think I better salute Ed here. Much more straight ahead. Stay with us.
Thank you.
CIA Director Mike Pompeo warns that North Korea is close to threatening the United States with a nuclear weapon.
Their testing capacity is improved, and the frequency that they have tests which are materially successful has also improved, putting them ever closer to a place where Americans can be held at risk.
We take up Kim Jong-un's threats with General Jack Keane. And this legendary freestyle skier doesn't need snow to show off his athleticism. All he needs are some sand dunes and, of course, the Great Wall of China. Why not? We'll show you his incredible, breathtaking performance here next. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson today denounced Russia for enabling Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad, saying the Kremlin bears responsibility for the victims of chemical warfare across Syria. That statement by the Secretary of State comes a day after a chlorine gas attack on a town outside Damascus. More than a dozen civilians were injured, most of them children. Joining me now, retired 4-star General Jack Keane, chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, Fox Business senior strategic analyst. General Jack Keane. General, good to have you with us.
Good to be here, Lou.
This is like I don't know, it's a retreat into the past suddenly. Syria now with a chemical gas attack by Assad again. What in the world are we going to do? The Russians we thought were in hand, and now their proxy is doing as he wishes, which is destroying the lives of women and children.
Well, the fact is the Iranians and the Russians propped up the Assad regime successfully. The regime is going nowhere. They're going to be able to stay in power. It's a fantasy when people in the administration believe that there'll be a political process in Geneva to resolve this to the world's favor. Not happening. This thug and killer, Assad, war criminal that he is staying in power. And we don't really have a strategy to deal with. Our strategy in Syria is focused on defeating ISIS. We've done a good job of that. But we really don't have any strategy to deal with the rest of it, which is the bigger problem.
And the bigger problem is, of course, Russia. What are we to do in contending with two large powers, global powers, that is Russia and China, with separate interest and also extraordinary common interest, that is in competing against the United States?
Well, there's some good news here. The administration, in their national security strategy and now in the Secretary of Defense's national defense strategy, they have both identified the world the way it really is, in my view. They backed away completely from the Obama's view of the world. They have identified Russia and China as two revisionist powers. Mm-hmm. We're in big power competition with them, and they want to destroy the international order that the United States have established for 70 years, and that we have to have strategies to push back on them. We've got to be willing to confront them. That is great news, because that is the truth. That is the way the world is.
And that truth also entails, as you pointed out on this broadcast numerous times, that means we've got to have an economy growing at the rate this economy grew in the fourth quarter of last year. The trajectory that this president has set us upon, but it also means immensely more money for our military and investment in technology and weaponry. How close are we to being there? We just watched an idiotic charade take place on Capitol Hill where they couldn't even agree on a budget.
Well, we've gone another month now with a continuing resolution, so that'll be 5 months. We're supposed to appropriate what the authorizers have given the president, and he signed, which is a $700 billion budget. That's almost close to an 8% increase,
right,
which is good news. That will be the start of rebuilding the military. But as long as you're using a continuing resolution, that means we're operating off of last year's money. And last year's money gave us only 5 out of 58 brigades combat ready. 50% of all aircraft are not flying due to lack of spare parts. Navy ships colliding into one another because we're overstressing our sailors and we're not training them improperly. And the smallest military in 75 years. That's what the continuing resolution continues. So we got to get a budget. And
so
Congress has got to do it.
Mitch McConnell and Speaker Ryan even look at themselves in the mirror? How is it that anyone could call themselves a leader, a speaker, a person of immense responsibility in this great government of ours?
Because defense is not a top priority for them. If it was, they would pass the appropriations bill, suspend the budget caps that are keeping the money down to the Obama level standards, put it at the top of the list and say the number one job of the United States government is to protect and defend the nation. And we are doing it so inadequately for so many years now, we have got to fast forward the money quickly and start rebuilding the military. What's the sad thing here is somebody has to tell the president. He hasn't appropriated a dime of new money to rebuild the military. He keeps saying that you guys, when he talks to the troops, you're getting new equipment, we're rebuilding the military. No, not true. Hasn't started yet. Why? Congress hasn't passed a bill to appropriate the money.
Because, amongst others on Capitol Hill, Chuck Schumer refuses to follow this president's lead, and he has priorities that have nothing to do with the national interest. General Jack Keane always has the national interest in view. We appreciate it. General, great to see you.
Good talking to you, Lou.
Please roll the video, and we'll show you a little relief here from all that is so profound and serious. This looks pretty serious, though, doesn't it? A world-class skier, proving you don't need snow to have a lot of fun if you just happen to be a world-class athlete. Wow! Skiing across the Great Wall of China, racing across a jungle, then riding across the sand dunes before, well, of course, what else? Cooling off in the ocean. You know, I wouldn't mind having that kind of talent. And then I would, of course, have to apply for a courage transplant. Up next, deep state subversion exposed at the DOJ and FBI. I'll have a few thoughts on what needs to be done to fix those agencies. And later, Charlie Hurt joins us to discuss growing calls to release the shocking memo detailing surveillance abuses. We're coming right back with much, much more. Stay with us. Media to ignore altogether. We're at the point we feared we might be. There is an all too clear requirement to determine the full extent to which the FBI, the DOJ, and Special Counsel's office have been compromised and corrupted. We've learned in the past 2 weeks that corruption is pervasive, it is deep, and it is determined. To me personally, it's sad that so far as we know that droves of rank-and-file special agents and attorneys at Justice and the FBI haven't stepped forward to reveal the extent of that corruption. Anti-Trump FBI officials Peter Strzok and Lisa Page in their text communications wrote of a, quote, secret society within the Justice Department and the FBI. That society served not only by its members, but those within the department who've remained silent throughout. How strong is the corruption within the FBI? The FBI informed Congress that it lost 5 months of post-election text messages between the two colleagues and lovers. The two were later removed from the special counsel team, a team rife with obvious conflicts and politically corrupt. Of course, the man in charge of the FBI, Christopher Wray, has his own conflicts. He shared the same chief of staff as James Comey until today. Wray was tied. Nonetheless, the White House today said the president has 100% confidence in Wray to make any necessary changes at the FBI. Well, it is now obvious to all that what is needed is not mere change, but fundamental cleansing and reform. It's time to investigate the investigators and to hold the corrupt accountable. And the president, in my opinion, should appoint someone respected and honorable. There are such people left in public service, like former Attorney General Michael Mukasey, to oversee the Justice Department until it can be cleaned up. and the American people once again assured the department and the FBI are again worthy of the public trust. The quotation of the evening, this one from George Bernard Shaw, who said, quote, "Power does not corrupt men. Fools, however, if they get into a position of power, corrupt power." Up next, exposing the deep state and